And we're going to do a countdown today for the Anthony Spurgeon Memorial for B grade. Guys, you are doing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Underway. The race is underway for the Anthony Spurgeon Memorial Handicap. The C graders are on the line as we grab Angus Calder, the C graders.
Welcome to another Tuesday Night Heffron podcast, another magnificent night of racing that saw us celebrate the 30th Joseph Sunde Memorial Race and the 17th King Anthony Spurgeon Senior Memorial Race. And to go through it all, to analyse it, to take in even more of the vibes and the sensations. What it was a beautiful night of racing. We have Mr. John Sunde, the father of Joseph, here tonight. Mr. John, good evening. And it looks like John Laws is also joining us. Vaughan, you've gone all out with your new podcast microphone. Clearly, you're doing more than one podcast. We'll no doubt hear about that later, but I'd like to welcome you both to this night's podcast. We wish Paul, he's unfortunately can't join us tonight. We wish him all the best. And until then, what a wonderful night of cycling. I don't know about you guys, but I'm actually still probably buzzing from what was a fantastic night in both races. I'm almost starting to be won over a better format, but I'll leave that to you guys. John?
Well, thanks, Alexis. Hey, Vaughan, how are you?
Good, mate. Good.
What a great opportunity to reflect on what is by far, I think, and this is not for personal reasons, the most exciting, emotional, and just buzziest night race on the calendar. It's the second monument of the season, and like you introed, Alexi, in memory of Joseph, who lost his battle to leukemia way back in 1993, and Anthony Spurgeon Sr., who played such a big role in developing and supporting the King's cycling career, which of course then went on to dominate. But the key thing on the Memorial Night races is the family connections. It really, really is. You got two families that I guess the Sundes and the Spurgeons that have been associated with Tuesday night racing or Heffron Park, let's say, for 40 years. But it's also all the families and partnerships that turn up to race. We had six sets of brother or / father-son teams racing on Tuesday night, not to mention all the family support on the sideline. So it was a very special night, and still buzzing 2 days later.
Yeah, I think it was an honour to be involved in it once again, John. So really, as always, I think everyone really appreciates, obviously with a tinge of sadness as well, that the memorial race that gets run and won. Vaughan, standing on the hill, what was your take on the night?
Again, it's an absolute privilege, just as you said, and it's an honour to be involved in it. And Tuesday nights just keep getting better and better. I've been around for quite a few memorial races, and this has been, in my view, by far the best. Like, the numbers at the start line were epic. So many people come out of the woodwork too just to race this, race once a year because they hold it so dearly. And without trying to get too emotional, I was actually taken aback quite a few times as I just saw more of the familiar faces turning up to race, both on the field and also in the crowd. It was a very, very special day. So thanks for having me a part of it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, in the end, we had close to 120 riders across the three grades kicking it off. So we had 41 who raced the Joe Sunde Memorial Race, and then we had 37 B graders, 36 C graders.
Yeah, so about 75.
Yeah, for the Anthony Spurgeon Race. And that was huge, right? Maybe we'll start with the Spurge Senior Memorial Race. That was a super tough race for those B and C graded riders who faced those wins on the back half of the course. It's almost soul crushing if you're a C grader with the wind like it was there, because it just kills you. As soon as you come out of the squircle, it's a headwind. Everyone is just slowed to a snail-like pace, slowly grinding away. And it probably only took 2 or 3 laps, I would imagine, on the sidelines before you guys realised the white flag was going up from C grade. It was going to be a night for B grade victors.
Yes and no. I was a bit surprised by the wind. Like you said earlier, stunning evening, beautiful summer's evening. Light northeasterly winds was the prediction on the forecast, but there was nothing light about them. They were gusting at sort of 45, 50, and that's solid. But what surprised me was the number of riders that finished in both races. In the handicap 75 odd starters, and the bulk of riders that we lost were from C grade. I think only 10 of them finished. But B grade had, out of 37 odd starters, I think like 25 finished. So it looked tough, and like you said, it was tough. But I thought that handicap race, both grades acquitted themselves really, really well in the conditions, and put on some incredible racing.
And I'll just chuck in there to give you a shout out, Alexi, because you were the one that was driving it over that second pimple. That wind was just punching you fair in the face, and it was really evident from down on the straight as we watched C grade come up and hit. But we always saw those familiar orange shores just trying to keep the pace up. And you guys weren't messing around. Like there was quite a few times, I think laps 3 and 4, it was nearly in the gutter, straight lining it down the straight, doing your best to try and stay away from a pretty well organised B grade with Centennial Park Cycles doing, the cycling club doing a majority of the work. But chapeau to you, mate, because I thought you were putting in some big yards.
Yeah, it was funny.
I just want to point out there that when I did the results, Alexis Kaless, fifth overall.
Actually up there, absolutely.
Hey.
Well, that
just
was
pointing out, just throwing that in there.
Yeah, well, that was the weird
thing. You
thing.
might go back to B grade.
It became easier once B grade because you could just sit in there and hide for that when it went to the back half of the race. And then I think the way the wind was slightly cross down the straight, and so it meant that it wasn't this brutal pace.
Yeah, with the massive tailwind.
Exactly, where you suddenly thought if you were starting in the back coming onto that straight, normally if there's a tailwind, like it's game over because the other people are already at the finishing line. But it didn't seem like that. So it was almost, I felt easier once we got
that might explain why there was a higher number of finishes than usual. Yeah.
Yes. And also I had the benefit of sitting behind Benny, the Barrel Glastonbury, and Adam McCoy. So
there's a win
very good large, good sized derrieres right there.
Exactly. If I was caught behind like Keira Will and Nicole O, I would have had serious problems. But yeah, it's all about being tactical. And I suppose we should start actually with the wonderful women's field that we had on Tuesday night in the spectacular racing. I mean, not only do we have the usual killers in Keira and Nicole, but we obviously had Nicole Wilson was racing, and then we had the
and Gabriella Fox. Yeah, Gabrielle Fox. She absolutely
she's just
loved
left.
it.
I was so disappointed to see that she flew out today. But she,
I hear on the inside, mate, she's coming back because someone may have had to help her get her bike ready and get her on a plane today. She's doing Warney on the weekend down to Turin Tassie, and then she's coming back.
Sorry. Yeah. I misread her post when I saw her on a flight. I thought she was going back to Ireland. But just wanted to say on the women's field, that was the biggest
tourist. Like I tell you, if you're going to book a holiday, you book it based on Tuesday night Heffron and then throw a Warney at the end.
Exactly. Although I was a bit disappointed that one of the fixtures of the summer season at the Tour Down Under and also the Sydney scene over the last few weeks, Elliot Phillips couldn't make it.
Yes.
So as a result of all that wonderful racing, we saw Keira Will on coming into the last lap, goes for the flyer, not just to win the women's race, to win the race. She thought she was back at the national championships. She's going off the front.
Off the front. So B graded caught 4 laps to go, 5 laps to go. She'd repositioned herself and she launched midway up that straight. It was an unbelievable move.
People on the crowd on the side of the finish line as she came through they're on their feet. They couldn't believe it, and you guys on the commentary were urging her on, and she didn't have a massive gap, but I tell you what, it was a pretty solid gap, and of course, unfortunately, she had to turn around, come back around the back straight into the headwind, but still managed to finish in a top position. But yeah, at one point, I thought she was going to pull the whole thing off, which just goes to underline the strength of the girls that are competing at Heffron. Hats off to them. And all 8 riders, female riders that turned up on Tuesday night, and it's so good to see a full podium, which of course we can do when we get those sorts of numbers, and I think they all got a lot out of it too.
And then, so she does the lap flyer, unfortunately gets caught by a bunch of 70 who are also very keen for the win. But then right at the end, Nicole O doesn't want to just go, hey, I'll let you take the win. We see the wonderful photo that we're posting up now. We can see what was in it. I mean,
there wasn't much in it. I had to play that 4 times before when we were doing the results. And that is a Champs-Elysees finish. I mean, Caleb Ewan hasn't been in sprint finishes as tight as that.
You can see she's obviously let it laid off for a little bit, and then just come out at the last moment, throwing the bike around, because she's not straight up. Like, she's clearly at a bit of an angle, leaning with the throw. I mean, that bike can't go much further in front of her. Yeah. That is a fantastic photo, and shows the quality of the women's racing that we see it now on a Tuesday night at Heffron. That there are no freebies. There are no freebies.
And just want to remind everybody too that both Keira and Nicole started and finished in B grade, which once again just underlies their strength and ability to compete with what was a pretty solid B grade.
That's right. And then third place we had Nicole Wilson, and fourth place was Hannah Giannetti, in only her second race. Speaking of constantly being on podiums, I feel like before we discuss the race, Luca Zaccardi was on the podium again on Tuesday night.
Luca Zaccardi has not been off a podium in C grade or B grade since he started this season on Tuesday night. I don't know what his parents are doing with all his winnings, but I've decided now to give it to his dad every night. So it doesn't take the money and spend it at the school tuck shop.
Mate, I feel like before we know it, he's going to be pulling up in the 4-wheel drive Lamborghini, Matthew Van Der Poel style.
He could be pulling up to the school car park.
Oh, I just can't. Like, every week, you kind of go out and see the play. He's there again. Like, in these various conditions, like it's scratch races, it's handicaps, it's windy, it's not windy. It just keeps. Kid can't lose.
So I think that's 3 B grade races in a row that he's 4 that he's finished on the podium. They're quite impressive. So hats off to Luca.
Yeah, I just didn't want that to get lost if we forgot about it, because that blew my mind on Tuesday night when I saw he was on the podium again. I just thought, this kid just can't be beaten. It's unbelievable. So
the B grade race was pretty interesting too, because I thought, early on you had Richard White, the Hershey bar, Phil Hershey, and I actually think it was Ruben Shepherd who went away in a group of 3, and then they got caught, 2 laps later, and then they caught you, as we just talked about, Alexis, they caught the C grade guys, but they didn't smash through C grade like they normally do. They sort of just drifted through. So obviously, as we've just spoken about, the 70 riders stayed together. And then, of course, it was Rubes who, just before B grade caught C grade, Rubes just launched it in that all black kit, and he has taken a super flyer, and 2 laps, I think it was maybe like 2 laps he was away on his own before B grade caught C grade. And I thought, look out, this kid is going to actually steal the entire bike race.
Yeah, when he did that, I thought, well, this has got elements of Lucas Stevenson's brave ride last year, or was it the year before? I can't remember now, when he took the 2 laps to go flyer. But unfortunately, I think for Ruben, it was just a few laps, about 2 laps too early.
Yeah, and I think the win. So it was obviously then all together on that last lap. Keira Will goes, she gets brought back. The bunch is there, all ebbing and flowing. And what we got to the second last. Second
to last pinball.
So what changed? I think changed the race there, guys. From where I could see up in the hill was. Obviously, the Rubes was away. Richard White had been sitting at the back. It looked like he's done his business for Centennial, but saw that he needed to go back to the front. He went back to the front, did a massive full lap turn. And then when Keira went, James Lamb, Coach Chops, was on the front.
Yes, saw that.
He literally pulled all the way to the hairpin with Ben Gladstonebury on his wheel. And on who's on Ben Gladstonebury's wheel? obviously, big Ads McCoy, right? And so, of course, it was a massive pull by James Land, by Chops, and his legs started to give way. And, of course, he pulled off, and they weren't even in the straight when Ben Latchford's nose.
Well, I'll tell you what, you've just mentioned all the names of the big hitters on the front going over the pimple. What they didn't know, that reading the playbook 5 or 6 wheels back was the Cridland Heffron master plan, written by Kenny 45 years ago.
And repeated twice.
Hit him on the pimple, hit him hard. That is 101 out of the Cridland playbook. And so who comes into the straight first? Down the bottom, Jonno Cridland, winner 2017. He actually said to me before the race he thought he was going to win. And he knew what was going on. And, you know, there's one thing about the Cridlands. They know how to read a race book. They read it. They can read between the lines, above the lines, in between the words, you name it.
Well, this great photo, and you can probably put it up, is Robbie Allen and Cridland at the start line as the previous winners.
Yes.
And then after the race, Cridland walked straight up to Robbie Allen and said, "Worked for you last year, worked for me this year." Same move. Hit him with right at the same point, hit him and let them all look at each other and never get caught. Amazing. What a win. It was so good.
Now, John, you're a bit of a historian. Is that the exact same way Luke Cridland won his monument here at Tuesday?
It was unfortunate Luke wasn't there on Tuesday night because the Cridlands love this event. Whole family was there. Pete was racing in C grade. Jonno was in B grade. And Ken and Gay were down there as the support. A nice photo on the finish line just after Jonno's cross with Ken taking Jonno's number off, and his mum Gay there as well. So that goes back to that whole family thing, that family history, and that's what makes Heffron so special. Are these names that keep sort of recurring decade after decade. Pretty special win. So that's 2 wins to Jonno in the Anthony Spurgeon 2017 and 225, and then 2 wins for Luke in the Joseph race off the top of my head 4 and 5 years ago.
Wow. Okay. And then second place, Rolando Delatz.
Rolando.
And third place, as we've mentioned, Lucas Zaccardi. First C grade across the line was Luke Cromer in his first win. We did catch up with him after the race.
The winner, first C grade at home. How did it feel?
Oh, mate, it's unreal. Yeah, I did second season, so I only just started doing Tuesday nights like last year. That's when I had the time. So been trying to get a win, always close, but tonight instead of doing turns all night, I decided to have a break and see what happens. And we got caught pretty early, so I knew I could sit on. Did some turns or joined the gap from B grade, so I felt pretty strong. And there was people just dropping like flies actually out there, so I actually thought for a moment if I just stay on my bike, I might have a good chance. Yeah.
And when did you become the first C grader in like the B and C grade bunch?
Oh, it wasn't until the sprint. Yeah, I had Pongy in my sights, Gareth as well from Ramwick. I saw him just in front of me before the first little bump before the pimple, and there was a weird bit of momentum stoppage, and I just knew I was in the right spot out there, so I went around all of them, and I was probably in the top 10 of the Bs. There was no one behind me. That Pongy, I think it was Pongasak was next to me or around there, and then when we came down the straight, I just sprinted straight past him, and there were a couple of Bs that sat up. I probably could have got a bit further in the B sprint as well, but I had to sort of slow down and navigate it, but then I just smashed it, and
And when the B...
And I suppose that showed he had a grand master plan there. He knew early on, I'm aiming for the win here. We're going to get caught. I'm going to be selfish and pull that off. And then we had Kun Pongsak, their second C grader.
Yeah, it was just actually it was quite tight between Pongsak and Luke.
Yeah, Kun rode well.
Yeah,
and then Anthony Challinor for the Challinor family rolling in third. Yeah. I suppose he will rank finishing third high in C grade, higher than his young son Harvey finishing 13th in B grade. I don't know
No,
where
well,
they finished in
Harvey finished 13th overall,
13th.
and 13th in B grade, and then Ant-Man was back 21st overall.
Okay.
So yeah, Harvey's most probably still got the bragging rights.
Yeah, Harvey said, well, I finished ahead of you. And then Dad says, well, actually, I was racing technical. I was racing for a podium. I wasn't so concerned
yeah,
about where
and
I
no,
was
Harvey,
finishing.
you're not getting half of my prize money.
Absolutely. So that, well, I'm just trying to think if we had any. I'll tell you what, the other thing in the C grade race was there's a few kind of, like we said earlier, returning faces. I think there was a rider who hadn't raced in 30 years, was someone saying?
No, 25 years. So get this.
Yeah.
Brent McParlin. Brent McParlin, I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know how old Brent is, but he's got to be in his 60s now because he's not that much younger. And I do see Brent quite a bit when we do our weekly rides down to Cronulla. He rides in from Bundina, a lecturer at the university. And so we still catch up a bit. And I was really surprised when I saw his entry and had to ask him, like, how long since you've raced at Heffron? And it was 25 years. And it was fantastic to see him. And another special shout out to Abe and Brad Martin. Have not missed a Spurgeon Memorial Race since day one. Very good mates of Anthony's. And they come up from the Illawarra every year to race the Spurgeon. So once again, it goes to underline that whole family theme. It was great to have them there.
I also saw Jeremy Hobson. It was his first race in probably a couple of years as well. He was racing in C grade. That's not me wiping a tear from my eye. That is just a scratch.
I said to Jeremy,
be happy with that top five.
I saw his entry come through in C grade, and Jeremy hasn't raced for 2 years. Last time he had raced was in B grade, and then the time before that it was in A grade. And I said to him after the race on Tuesday night, "Oh, this is really good, Jeremy. The last 3 races you've gone from A down to B down to C. You know you can't go any further if you don't come back for 2 years."
Absolutely. So yeah, look, fantastic race. So well done to those. So C grade, just like we said before, Luke Cromer was the first C grader of the ride for Landwick, ahead of Corn Ponsac Serageon, and third place Anthony Challenor. And then for B grade, first over the line and first in the race. I assume it was a 1, 2, 3. First 3 B graders made up. So that would be Jonno Cridland, Rolando Delatz, and of course Luca Zuccati.
And of course, the moment of the week that we've all been waiting for.
Oh well, first of all, let me just give the women's podium again. Just
oh yes, of course.
There was of course Keira Will in first, second Nicole O, and third to Nicole Wilson, and then of course Pluck a Duck. It is time for the Char Grilled Charlies Rider of the Week on behalf of the Anthony Spurgeon Senior Memorial Race. So then that'll allow us to then go straight on to the other big race.
I'm going to come up with I'll try and find another chicken voucher. I think we should have 2 chicken vouchers for this event. One for the overall for the race, the memorial race, and I think we should have a wing,
a chicken
or a leg
for
the women's, because they had a podium on their own. And I think they deserve a chicken voucher as well.
Absolutely. So you've probably given away who you're going to vote for there, John. So let's let you go first. And who are your Char Grilled Charlies, Pluck a Duck Riders of the Week?
It's hard. It's hard not to go past the winner, Jonno Cridland, but we expect Jonno Cridland to pull a stunt like that. Come on, he's a criddo.
Yeah.
The one that surprised, but the ride that surprised me that I thought, there were 2 rides. Reuben Shepherd, it was just a little bit too early to pull off a big stunt. But the person who nearly pulled it off, I thought, was Keira Will, 1 to go. That was, excuse the pun, ladies, that was ballsy. that was really fucking ballsy. That was awesome. If she had pulled that off and was relatively close to doing it, that was awesome. So
we're now going to find out that she'd probably done some track session on the same day and had done 25 standing starts or something. Max effort. I just think, and sorry to jump in for, and I know I normally go last, but what I love about that ride from Keira is just the confidence she's displaying at the moment. Like, look, I know she, was second at the elite race at nationals, but that's in Perth. The real race is at Heffron. And for her to have that confidence to go, you know what, I'm going. I just think that's
That
what
was
you
pretty
call a
impressive.
ride of the week. Like that's impressive. I mean, that's Nationals here, but Heffron is just that next level up when it comes to power, skill, and panache. So I'm with you there, Vaughan.
Gee, I was going
Don't
to do
get
that because I
yourself
thought
fancy.
both of you guys are going to go for Criddo because Criddo's ride was absolutely epic. But I agree, Keira's launch was just so exciting, and the fact that it was like, I don't care who's here, I don't care that all the B grade's still here, all the C grade's still here, all the people have been hiding out the back. Because don't forget, she also pulled turns quite a few times in that.
As she always does.
As she always does, right? She didn't shirk turns. She was smashing it out and then to do it. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
Keira Will.
Oh,
No need to get a second voucher. Just take the main show overall. Keira Will, you are the Char Grilled Charlie's Rider of the Week for the Anthony Spurgeon Senior Memorial Race. And
Criddo will be
I'll tell you what,
spilling.
Kerry, you get the family chicken basket. How's that?
absolutely. But like we always say though, like Criddo, it's almost it's not a big shock seeing a Cridland win a race. And even the way he did it, he'd go, yeah, but I went solo there. Yeah, but again, that's how Criddos win races. They just
That's right.
It's
outsmart
just
everyone. They're just the
expected.
smartest
It's
folks
just
in the
100%
race.
expected.
Yeah. So if you want to get a chicken voucher in your pocket, do the unexpected, not the expected.
Exactly. Even Kurt Eather admitted that the other week when he said, he even thought about going solo to see if he could win a race to guarantee it. So yeah, do the unexpected. Keira Will, fantastic ride. Having a crack off the front with a lap and a bit to go, and also with such a huge crowd as well. So plenty of people there to witness it. It wasn't a cold, rainy night where you've just got John and someone and Spurge ringing a bell.
Yeah, or the Cadell Classic where you've just got a few people standing on some, ocean road in the back of lawn.
Yeah.
It's Tuesday Night Hefffron, for God's sake.
Tuesday
Exactly.
Night Heffron. And with that, it is a great way to then introduce the Joseph Sunde Memorial Race. Race this year for, I think, so I said this starting, I believe it was the 30th year. We had 41 starters. So the usual A grade and then a select bunch of B graders also put their hand up. Perhaps, John, do you know who those B graders were? People with the finishes.
Most of them, yeah, a lot of them did well. Firstly, I just want to say we first had this race. Joseph passed away in October 1993, and there was an Australia Day race that we always had at Heffron Park the following January, and the guys at East, it was Frank Consacao actually, who suggested, hey, wouldn't it be a great idea to have a memorial race for Joseph, who literally just we had lost a few months earlier, and that was how the race started. I never imagined then that it's now 32 years later because we've missed a couple because of COVID. I never imagined ever that 32 years later, it would be as popular and as big. And I was very touched to get an Instagram post after we had posted the results from Graham Moffat, because Moff, who many of our listeners and riders will know, is head bike mechanic at Pond Bikes in Australia, the distributors of Cervelo and Focus and other brands. Can't remember when Moff won. It was a number of years ago, and made the comment, best race in Sydney, perhaps Australia. So very touched by that, Moff, and thanks for the reminder. And it's great to see that past winners. It was good to see CJ Sutton down there on. He rode from the Shire after he closed the shop on Tuesday night to come down and watch. And we had 5 previous winners on the start line. We were supposed to have 5, but unfortunately, previous winner Alex Nazowitz, he didn't make it. But we had Darcy there. We had Jack Bennett there. We had Scott Law. Who else did we have? Obviously Kurt Eather and Edwin Brits.
Yep.
I hope I didn't forget anyone then.
No, I think that was pretty long. It's another 10 minutes of my life gone.
No, it's a special occasion.
Hey, well, look, for just this once, we'll let you ramble on a little bit longer than normal or expected. But no, I thought that was a pretty cracker race, but it blew apart again. Another monument race. So when did that race split up? So for those that don't know, I think it was essentially 8 riders had a pretty
9 riders.
Nine riders had a pretty comfortable
and they went
on
with,
the bunch with the couple.
They went after 7 laps.
They went up to 7. Who was the initiator?
Can't
Edwin
remember
Brits.
who the initiator was.
It was definitely so there was definitely Edwin Brits who did the move for the move that won. But that first move was actually done by his first ever Tuesday Night Hefffron, the mountain biker that is Johnny Odman's. He's done that first group of 4 or 5 at lap 4, and they got away. And at the time, my 2 commentary counterparts were saying, that's it, that's the group that's going to go away. But I very quickly reminded them that Cache had a solid team in there, and there was no Cache riders in there. And in fact, Johnny Odom said to me after the race, damn, I wish I could read a road race a bit better. I can't believe I went in a breakaway with no Cache riders. But then they got caught, and and then Edwin Brits absolutely launched it to the counter, and he was the one that went first with Scotty Law chasing across. And it ended up being 9 riders in the road.
And then they pretty much just held it and got like probably 30, 40 seconds by the end of the race. It was pretty much all, a few big hitters missed it as well. I know Ollie Penny, he missed the gap, which surprised me a little. Dan Bonello is normally super.
Yeah, well, Dan Vaughan was in one of the early breaks.
He was.
In those early moves with Phil Lucas that didn't have a Cache rider in it. So just quickly, those riders that were in that break were Edwin Brits, Kurt Eather, Brad Mills, Tom Bolton, Tom Gray, Scott Law, Chris Miller, Ben Coates, Cam Fraser. I was very impressed with Tommy Gray in the early parts of that break. He was doing a mountain of work driving it. And I think it was a foregone conclusion. But it was pretty obvious that with Kurt and Edwin in that break, 2 key riders from Cache, and especially Kurt, they weren't coming back. Although the chase did get close at points.
Absolutely. Well, so one thing I just wanted to quickly mention there, John, is so Kurt actually crossed on his own. So if you go and have a look at his data, on lap 9, he did a lap on his own to catch the group of 8. And he averaged 477 watts for an entire lap of Heffron Park. And like the previous
hats off to that.
Yeah,
massive.
That's
an impressive amount of power. Okay.
That's a massive amount of power. That was a super impressive. And then it was like, as soon as he caught, I was standing on the hill, and there was a little bit of, everyone, Millsy, Chris Miller, everyone was sort of looking around at each other going, what do we do now? We've got Kurt Eather with us. And they slowed. And as you just said, John, I thought it was going to come back together. Like literally,
at one point it looked very close. Yeah.
They were coming down the pimple. The peloton was coming down the pimple, and they were looking at each other, soft pedaling over the second pimple. I thought this is done, but no, they got there together and they got back going again, and then they rode away with it.
Yeah, and then we lost a couple towards the finish. From memory, that was Tom Bolton and. Who else did we lose?
Scotty Law, I think, went out.
And Scott Law, Scotty was on the last lap. But in between, while that was going on, how about Willie Heff with the big move to get across on his own?
Oh, yeah. I actually spoke to Willie Heff after the race, and I said, mate, you were so close, because like two or three laps of chasing, right? And he said to me, I just don't quite have the punch that I need for Tuesday Night Hefffron, because I've been doing all this training, because he's obviously going down for Melbourne to Warney, some longer endurance type stuff. And I said, mate, you've got your priorities all wrong. Don't worry about the Warney. You got to worry about the Tuesday night racing.
Yeah.
I suppose, and then the other takeaway from the big hitters who got away there was no ZCC representation. So no Lucas. What happened to Jack?
Phil was. We had a couple of misfortunes. Some of the wheels fell off the ZCC bus, unfortunately. Phil was in one of those early moves with Vaughan. Jack was in the bunch. You're never going to see him show his face too much until he really has to. But they were missing Jeff Rickards, who had a bit of a spill at the weekend. Ended up in hospital after sliding out the corner when he was riding at the weekend. So no big Jeff, and of course the powerhouse of the whole team, Mick Cupid. Mick's been in the sick bay. Unfortunately, hasn't been racing. So they just didn't have the numbers.
But Bennett didn't finish.
No, he
didn't.
He's not. So what happened?
There is a photo of one of Richard's photos of the bunch, and you can see Jack in the background. And I thought there was a bit of stress on his face.
Okay, that's it. Look, could be panic stations at ZCC. Are we seeing the crown finally falling off? Oof. Points score starts coming.
Calling it early.
Wow. A lot of look, that's going to be the pressure of the point score season. Cache, certainly at the moment, they're looking pretty good. So
absolutely. And actually, just speaking of the Cache team, it was very nice to see Alan Horn from Cache, who's a supporter of our summer program, our summer series. All the winners each week get a Cache voucher to spend online. And so great to have Alan from Cache down there to witness it firsthand. He had a fellow associate, Jimbo, and Jimbo's from Spain, and he was very, very excited with the thrill of it. He just couldn't believe it. The great thing is they turned up with about 200 VBs to give out, so I think everyone enjoyed that.
How did I not get one of them? But bringing it back to the racing and not just the spectacle of it, I think Brad Mills, I mean, form of his life, he is continuing second place. But probably when you came into those last couple of laps, you probably thought Benny Coates may have the chance of, being a little higher up. But I thought, for me, almost the ride of the night was Cam Fraser. Like, not a renowned sprinter, but he's hitting a golden patch of form.
Yeah, he's been training pretty hard. Third, always performs well at Heffron, reads what's going on well. So it was no surprise to see him in that break. But I'll go back to Tommy Gray's ride, which I thought some of the work that he was doing was really, really impressive. But
that's pretty harsh. So the guy who came seventh, you give a clap to, but the guy who came third, you go, not too bad, no big deal. Gosh.
Cam goes well. I'm a big admirer of Cam's, but Cam's sort of not the sort of guy you're going to see bury it for the break. But I don't think anyone was surprised by the outcome, though. Okay. Were they?
No. Well, what I would
not
say
the overall
is
winner. Like, my God, I mean, he probably could have been on a unicycle on the last lap, and he still would have been the favourite to win Kurt Eather. But I think Millsy second.
I reckon they stuffed it. I'm going to get out there and say it. This is what I reckon. Yep. So the last 3 or 4 laps, Edwin Brits didn't get off the front. Like the last 2 laps, he did the full 2 laps on the front, right? And still let out. And what was happening with 5 laps to go, 4 laps to go, around that time, they were literally forcing Chris Miller to the front, up the pimple into the headwind. And Chris Miller, to his credit, didn't shirk any turns and actually rode very strongly, I thought.
He did, great.
And so he so I think that was really smart. Benny Coates was doing what Benny Coates does. He was hiding at the back. Him and Brad Mills had a chat with 3 laps to go at the back, and I went, all right, you boys need to do this. You need to absolutely let fly, because Brits' tongue is hanging around the front spokes of his bike. He's already on the limit, and they've got 2 laps to go. But they didn't. They just waited and waited and waited. I reckon if Brad Mills and even Chris Miller was starting to look a bit tired, but still had plenty of beans there, and someone like a Benny Coates had launched early and even just 1-2'd them, we may have had a slightly different bike race. But literally with 2 laps to go, coming around for 2 laps to go, coming around for the bell lap, I was standing on the hill next to little Willie Heff, and the grin that was on Kurt Eather's face was so big. It was like, this is a very obvious finish to a bike race coming up.
That's right. It was almost like everyone could ride. Who's going to get second?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, the guy that did get second, Brad Mills, I got to say, hats off. I know how much this race means to Millsy, and we only had to see the emotion in his face when he won the trophy race after 20 years of racing at Heffron. I looked at the results from last year. Millsy was last in this race. And for him to come back this year, win the trophy race, and then second by a good margin too from Cam in the finale, because then there was a bit of a gap back to Chris and Benny Coates. Yeah, hats off to him. Good ride, Millsy, for second.
That's what he's saying, from last to second in a year. Oof, Vaughan, you'll be winning the thing next year, guaranteed. So with that, we should then go Chargill Charlie's Rider of the Week.
Well, I'll go first and just back up my previous comment. I'm going for Millsy.
Is that
great
because
ride.
you owe him the voucher from the last race?
He keeps asking me for the voucher, but that's because Crafty's got the vouchers. And I must remind Crafty to turn up with the voucher so I can distribute all the vouchers out. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go get some chickens from the supermarket and start roasting them myself. Yeah, my rider of the week is Millsy in the Joseph Sunde. And that's awarded because of the amount of emotion and feeling that he puts in, not only to Tuesday night racing, but to Sydney bunch riding and racing generally, but very much because of his commitment. And he gave my wife a big hug when he came up to the podium, and all she did was complain how, he was so wet, he was all sticky. And I says, just go with it, honey. It meant a lot to him. And she says, I know that, and I know that she has a very special spot for him because of the support. So Millsy,
he wasn't able to steal your wife, but he will get your vote. I mean, that just shows you run a strange household. Gordy, what about yourself?
I'm going to go against everything I just said and go, my rider of the week is Edwin Britz, because he did the perfect counter attack up the straight, off the front, mind you. He told Kurt Eather to just not chase him. He attacked off the front and made the initial attack, and then he did all of the hard work to make sure that he could still provide an acceptable lead out for his teammate to win. So I'm going to go Edwin Britz for my Chargill Charlie's rider of the week.
Your decision, Alexi.
Well, the funny thing was, I was Cam Fraser as rider of the week but funny thing was, you actually sold me, Vaughan, and I thought, you know what? What a teammate ride by Edwin Britz. The fact that he was able to control those 6, 7 other riders in that bunch and to do everything that delivered Kurt Eather the overall victory. Like, that's exactly what you want in a teammate. And I actually think Kurt did say something similar after the race, where he said, when you've got teammates like Edwin, it makes it very easy to win bike races. And
you had a very faithful lieutenant there in Edwin Britz. He looked like he was on patrol for the last 2 or 3 laps. Did a great job there. Was anybody else trying to make it a pretty particularly challenging day for him, or did he have it all under control?
No, it was perfect. He said to me before to go, like, whatever you need, just let me know. And I mean, I didn't really have to say much to him. He just topped on the front with 1 to go, and he kept the pace up. And it was kind of surprising. No one else really tried to do anything. So I think everyone must have been feeling it. So yeah, it kind of played into my hands coming down to a sprint.
Probably the exact person you would want on your team in this moment of your experience. You guys have taken a lot of wins together. Big shout out to Edwin Britz. Congratulations, Kurt Eather, your 2025 Joseph Sunde Memorial winner.
And it is so often seen as that individual sport, but as a team member. So I'm going to go Edwin for being that team player.
That's a good call, and very nice photo of the entire Cache team, by the way, that are in the socials.
Yeah, because potentially he sacrificed his own victory.
He did. And he was defending champion, let's not forget.
Defending champion said, you know what, I'm going to bury myself for my teammates. That he worked that hard that really no one attacked them because they just thought, what's the point? So well done, Edwin Britz.
Well done,
you are
Edwin.
Chargill Charlie's rider of the week. And he said, John, by the way, that means I don't have to enter next week. I'll just be there. You can put my name down. I'm all good.
Hey, Edwin, I'm going to take a drumstick off you if you do not enter on time. Trust me. In fact, I don't take the whole chicken burger off you.
And that kind of moves us to our the King Spurge last lap.
Next week. Then it is Tim Fraser in second, Kurt Eafer, followed by Brad Mills. Then it's the rider Chris Miller. Then it's
Next week, we are back into the point score series. We are back
certainly are.
racing, collecting points. Remiss of me. Is it third week?
It's week 2.
Week
round
two.
2.
Round 2 next week. All is to play.
It certainly is. So we've got 7 races left. And just to answer your early suggestion, Alexi, why we can't run a scratch race as a normal race format is, well, with the 20 laps, we need the sunlight. This is most probably the last week we had the chance to run the Memorial Race, because we just need that extra, because it takes longer. We need the extra sunlight, and that starts disappearing very quickly on cloudy nights over the coming weeks.
I also think having it as one-off races as well does make them elevate the monuments to the races that they're at. So
that's why we call it the monuments.
That's right. So they are 7 weeks remaining. All is to play. Entries open on Bunch. What else have we got to talk about, gentlemen? I'm not too sure.
Enter online and don't be late.
There was a few
Schofield
tiny little
Brothers.
bingles on Tuesday night. I think that was mainly the wind, riders slowing. I don't think anyone had any major bark off, I believe. Not that I've heard. So
it was
always
all good.
great to see. But look, you've got to get your entries in for the remaining 7 rounds. It only gets harder and more popular. It's a wonderful night of racing. Buncher, get on there, support the club. East Racing. Anything else, gentlemen?
Just a special thank you to all the team at East Cycling, Stu, Doug, Gwen on the numbers and the lap counting, Anthony Atchison, who have I missed, Luke, Greg Rule, who were all there on the night. Of course, this wouldn't happen without them. So big thanks to the team.
So we'll be looking at 120 odd riders there again on Tuesday night. We'd love to hear your comments and thoughts in the comments section after the podcast. But until then,
see you next Tuesday.
Yeah.